Straight are the paths of the Lord. In them the just walk. From the 14th chapter of the prophet Hosea, our first reading this day on this third Friday in Lent. It may seem that our path is not straight, but that there are stumbling blocks strewn all through it. Are we paying attention to God's call? Are we attempting to follow in God's way? Questions that we may have more time to contemplate as our daily routine changes, as our interaction with the world gets reshaped. You and I are not just told, but we are exhorted, strongly encouraged to pay attention to God's path. Some of the disciplines of Lent lend themselves for us to get on the path or to clear other obstacles out of the way. One of those marvelous disciplines fasting. And I know on Fridays of Lent, some people fast. We are called to abstinence as well, abstaining from meat. But fasting, for most, what that conjures is this: 2 small meals added together to barely equal 1 meal, and then 1 regular meal during the day. There is another way to do that. A little more stricter observance, having a few little nibbles and having 1 meal during the day. Ancient voices in our church and even prophets in the Old Testament would say that while this is a marvelous discipline, if the fasting is done begrudgingly or out of obligation and not laced with mercy, not creating a space for us to have fertile ground where God's word can take root, the fasting is pointless. Many of us are beginning to understand what it means to fast from the gift of the Eucharist. And it's not a choice. It's imposed upon us. We priests every day are still saying Mass, and we are privileged to receive the Eucharist. Many of you have had the opportunity to attend Mass and the occasion to receive the Eucharist stripped away. Are you truly electing of your own free will to fast from such a marvelous and essential gift? You're not choosing it, but what you choose to do with this sacrifice can produce much fruit. Our gospel this day, and we're reading from the Gospel of Mark, and I would encourage those who are seeing this at home to look up the daily readings and to read them and to pray in connection with the universal church and with your local parish. The passage from today's Gospel of Mark speaks to us about the great commandments of loving God and loving neighbor? How do you and I do that in a way that's authentic, in a way that's honest, in a way that is guided by zeal for God and use of our God-given gifts, including common sense, which all of us have heard said and often repeat is not very common. So we have to have others help us restrict and to pause and to make sense out of things. We may have a burning desire to come to Mass or to come to the tabernacle if we have access to church and to the key to the tabernacle, and to take communion to the most vulnerable and the elderly and the homebound. Yet, when we do that, what are we actually doing? It's hard. It's really hard. People who have gone to Mass every Sunday of their lives are now stripped of that opportunity for a period of time, an unknown period of time. Be assured of this: if and when someone is in danger of death, meaning near the end of their earthly life, they are encouraged to contact the parish. And myself, Father Mike Clark, or the associate pastor here, Father Jamie Dennis, will come and offer anointing of the sick, viaticum, their last communion, an apostolic blessing and pardon. And we will take precaution not to bring to the dying person or their family any contagion, nor to contract and then bring it back to the community. We will do this as best we can, paying attention to protocol and using common sense. Freely choose to fast. And rather than turning to some other comfort, to placate, to satiate, to fill up that gnawing, empty longing, sit with that emptiness and say, God, continue to use this to create space, to remove the stumbling blocks in my own path to you. That I might respond more fully to your grace. Trust that God will and does nourish us in many ways. Pray, fast. Pay attention to the needs of your neighbor. And praise your God.